I shot the Pennzoil 400 race in Las Vegas with one camera and one lens. Now, if you think that you need expensive cameras and expensive gear to be able to make great content, you are about to be proven wrong. Because not only did I shoot this race with gear that was completely free, but also this very video you're watching was shot with a phone and some Home Depot gear. And I am going to show you exactly how. So here are my 2 tips to becoming a full-time creator when your pockets ain't so deep.
I want to hear about this, homie.
So forget about it, cuz.
I said forget about it, cuz.
You're going to know the gear that you need at any budget, including free, and how to use it, which has been distilled from the ocean of YouTube education, from cinematography to photography to composition, lighting, settings, editing, and so many more ings. Now, before I tell you how I got free gear to shoot this gig, and no, it's not being an influencer, you're probably asking yourselves, how did you get the free gear? How did you get here? Well, let me tell you exactly how I got to go to Home Depot.
Not want to work at Home Depot.
It's a rat race reference. Now, if there's one thing you should know about gear is this: the more cheap or free you go on the spectrum of gear, the more knowledge you're going to need. And the more expensive you go in gear, the less knowledge you're going to need to make it look good. I'll go deeper into this as the video goes along, but you catch my drift. Now, this is a good time to mention something about gear. And I say this to everyone that is looking to purchase a camera, because that's what everyone thinks you should buy first. If you're planning on spending less than $1,000 on a camera, don't do it. The value of these, I don't think is worth it, like, at all. Save your money. You're better off recording with your phone and then just adjusting all the settings inside. You'll notice this later on, is that the camera settings and the phone settings, they all match up. It's the same settings anyway. Now, if you're planning on spending $1,000 to $2,000 on a camera, then I would say, yep, that is a good mindset to have and potentially buying a camera. There is obviously so much more to this, but for brevity, we'll just leave it at that. I'm gonna have some links below for like the gear, some stuff that I suggest, but for now, we gotta find ourselves some lights, because that's very important. It's only 49 bucks. Este es el Husky, este es el bueno. Hey. And it's 1200 watts? El HDX, ese también está bueno. Okay. That's not a good idea.
Which one are you trying to test out?
The cheap ones. A 1200 watt light in a studio light, we'd probably be spending like $1,000 to maybe $2,000. But that one looks pretty good for 50 bucks. It's halogen. It's gonna get hot. But we're on a budget right now. Everybody can suck it up, okay? We can turn on a fan. Guys, make me feel like my psych degree was worth the $37,000 that I still owe them for just a second. Did you know psychologists have done multiple studies? They've done it with vending machines, they've done it with chips, they've done it with chocolate bars and a whole bunch of other stuff. And they realized that the people that have more options tend to be less satisfied with their decision because they had too many options. So not only are you going to be less satisfied with your decision, but you are also going to be wasting your most precious asset, which I know is time. So less is not only more, but it also provides meaning. That's a bar. I don't care how you put it. That's a bar. Sorry, I didn't mean to string you along with the whole race story. So, you see, I got the opportunity to shoot this race because someone locally saw me in a video of one of my friends' YouTube channels of this like B-roll competition thing that I won.
In camera, he shot on a MacBook Pro, Henry. First place. Congratulations, Joey.
And coincidentally, we were on the same flight to head back home. Really weird. A couple of months later, he sends me a text. Hey, ever been to Vegas? No. Now, I want you to know something, that up to this point, I only owned a single camera and a single lens. I literally emptied my savings on that mess. I'm serious, I didn't own a tripod or lights or batteries or stands or any other accessories. I didn't have any of that junk. I knew that it would potentially put this trip in jeopardy, but I'd rather be honest than not. So I told him that. And he said, all right, let's go. Now remember what I said, if you got a ball on a budget, you do not have the luxury to do that with your knowledge. When I say knowledge, I'm talking about education. So that means knowing how to work cameras, know where to put lights, what to change your camera settings to, composition, editing, storytelling, script writing, and potentially even thumbnailing in there. That's right. I said thumbnailing, that's my word. I'll also have a link to a PDF that is gonna have a lot more resources. Watch until the end if you want it for free. Now, when it comes to the camera, I'm talking about your phone. That's typically what everybody has, so I'm gonna consider that free, but I'll have some more options for you later. So if you are using your phone, here are the camera settings that you gotta go to real fast. Number one, change everything to 24 frames per second. Number two, change it to the highest resolution possible, whether it's 1080, 4K, whatever it may be. Next thing, probably gonna get a lot of hate for this, but this is what I like to call the log versus regular color debate battle thing 2.0. Now, very briefly, whenever we're talking about log footage or raw, there is more information in the image. Typically, it lets you see the darker areas and the brighter parts of your image. That's what we call dynamic range. And it's also being recorded with more information in it so that you can color it better in post-production. Truth be told, you want the best image out of your phone, this is definitely gonna be the way to go. However, this is where everybody might get a little upset at me. If you don't know how to color properly, don't do that. If you don't know how to color, don't do this. Go over here and just shoot in the regular color picture profile that it comes in. Coloring is an entirely different beast and a completely different discipline. It takes years to be able to get your eyes to see the colors that are actually going on. I would know. I swore I thought I could color too. Bonus tip here, if you are on an iPhone, go to the camera settings and change this to most compatible. Trust me, your editing software will thank you later. Just remember, you might have to change it back because you're gonna run out of storage pretty quick. Dude, I was a guy who had no idea how to use lights, and I would only shoot outside because that's the only lighting that I knew. And so like, I was just hiding behind the fact, I'd be like, oh, I like to shoot natural light. Nah, dude, Joseph, you just didn't know how to use light. So that is not going to be you today. Now, when it comes to lighting, you have natural light and you got purchase lights. Now, if you don't have the budget to afford lights, don't worry. God already did the hard work for you, and you're just gonna stand right next to a window. Yeah. Say thank you. Big number one, everybody, is turn off all your house lights. You probably have orange in the kitchen, and then you have blue coming from the TV, and then you have like another 5,000 Kelvin coming from the living room. Different color temperatures don't mix well. You want to be able to control your lights. Number two, lighting soldier. I do not want to jump ahead, but we're gonna talk slightly about composition. Set up where you're going to shoot first, and then start setting up your lights. Because you're gonna put the camera, set up all your lights, and you're gonna be like, dang it, bro. This sucks, I don't wanna move this over again. Set up your shot roughly where it's going to be, and then you can start setting up your lights. And number three is to set your lights 45 degrees from where the camera is. If you don't have the budget to buy any lights, then go stand to a really large window. It will do the exact same thing. Yes, you are going to be limited to where you can put your camera, but the image is gonna come out way better. So you can continue following along. I'm actually going to show you a sample image of something that I used only using the sun and then using our lights over here. The next thing is to go to your bed and grab a sheet, preferably a white sheet. And you're gonna hang that right in front of the lights, or if you got the sun, right next to the window. This is going to diffuse the light. It is going to make the light look so much softer. It's gonna have a nice wraparound. It's gonna look so good. Trust me, just put a sheet up. If the sheet is not doing enough diffusing, you can always put another sheet up, or you can bounce the light into the wall or into the ceiling that is nearby. Bouncing just means that you're literally just shooting against the wall, and then the wall is gonna reflect that color back this way. Now, as you can see, this already looks pretty nice. But now, we're gonna step it up a notch. This is kind of like a little bonus, if you will. If you have any what we call practical lights, or lights that will be in the frame, call that like if you have one of those cool little colored lights, or you have like a light bar, or if you have like a lamp or something like that you like the way it looks, just stick it in the background, and that is going to add a lot more depth. The main thing that you gotta know is what we call the rule of thirds. High five, rule of thirds. Yeah, that's, you're right. Oh, you just want to go outside. Got it. So we were in charge of shooting some of the stuff of the race, but the main thing we're focused on was like the drift car drivers that were outside of the stadium, along with like the DJ and all the activations that were going on outside. There was also this like LED wall that we had to set up a camera to send a live feed of the people that were actually in the drift cars, because they were giving people rides. Now, even though we didn't have a lot of room inside of the car, we still utilized the rule of thirds type of composition framing. So even in those moments, you want to apply this wherever you go. Now, the rule of thirds is this: drawing 2 lines horizontally and 2 lines vertically. That is it. Now, you see these crosshairs right here? You want to put your subject on either one of those crosshairs or right in the middle. Once you get bored of that and you want to get a little bit more fancy, you can put your subject in any one of those crosshairs to get one of those like documentary, cool, artistic type of looks. It's pretty cool whenever you start messing around with it. Now, I am oversimplifying this. There's so much more to this, but remember, we're here for a good time, not a long time. I don't know if that makes sense in this context. So anyway, we're at the gear van, and so my boy Tyler says, hey, grab whatever you want. And then he had like a treasure trove of a whole bunch of lenses, step-up rings, and diffusers. I was like,
2206. I crashed one of those.
226
2765.
and 737.
Okay, so which one do you want?
Well, I want
them all.
All I was thinking was, I'm about to handle this mess. Bruh, I came back to the van in like, I don't know, maybe a couple of hours because my shoulders were killing me. Every time I try and get low shots, my back starts hurting. The monitor keeps getting in my way. Anytime I try and get like a top-down type of angle, my shoulders can't stay up there for longer than a minute. So I ditched like 80% of those things that I mentioned. All that to say, more gear will slow you down. So if you're a solo creator and you're saying, oh, if I only had this gear, it would make things so much faster. Yeah, there are some things that can help. But for the most part, more gear is gonna slow you down. And remember that time is everything. The last video that I made, which was like how to actually fake it until you make it, that entire thing was shot on a DJI Osmo, a little handheld thing, in 30 minutes. I had a basketball game that day, so I had to knock it out as fast as I could. I never would have been able to do that with a big old camera rig. So you may be thinking, that's cool, Joseph, but not all of us have the luxury to do something like that. I actually need gear. I got you. I hear you. I hear you. So here's what I would do if I needed to get my hands on some free gear. Number one, make friends with people that have gear. Creatives are like iron, they sharpen one another. So meet people, be trustworthy. And then whenever the time comes, you can ask, hey, do you mind if I rent this for cheap, or can I borrow this? I have a shoot coming up tomorrow. Two, if you're an adult with bills and mouths to feed, this is for you. Work. Yeah, I know, you're probably tired of hearing it, but if I was you, I would get a part-time gig or a full-time gig or maybe intern at like some studio or maybe like somewhere where they're doing production stuff and you want to learn. They typically will rent that or even just lend it to you for free if you work there. But if you don't want to work, you can always shadow. That's another way to get in. And a bonus thing there is that you get to learn while working and making money. So it's a win-win. Number three, if you are making money, bro, it is getting so hot with those lights in here. Three, if you are making money off of shooting photos or maybe video, this is the time for you to literally make the client pay for it. You don't tell them that you're going to rent this gear, but you roll it into the quote and you say, hey, this is how much it costs for the lens and the gear that we need for this. They don't have to know that you own it or you don't. You just roll it in the quote and they pay for it. Next is what I like to call the community section. Now, if you go to school, maybe university, or you're part of some club, do this. Go to the media department and ask if there is anything that is available to students. They typically got lights, gimbals, bunch of crap. So if you're in school, I would do that and become friends with that entire circle. The next thing, times have changed, guys. Libraries and community centers actually have a lot of gear that they're willing to rent out or even lend out if you have like a library card. Yeah, back in my day, libraries, the most that they had was VHS tapes. So you can go in there, find out. Every place is different, see what they have available for you. And last but not least, church. Go to church. A lot of places typically have really strong media departments. If you serve there, if you volunteer there, they may be willing to lend you that stuff. Or you can even just serve like on a Sunday or on a Wednesday, volunteer to be on the cameras and stuff, and then you're in. You get experience and exposure to these cameras that otherwise maybe currently you can't afford. So in Vegas, it was actually time to go inside of the race, right? So there's this really long underground hallway to get to the racetrack, but I looked up and there are fluorescent lights. And there's all of these people walking around. I think I'm getting the best shots ever. So I get back to the hotel. We have same day editing turnaround. I don't know why I put myself in these situations, but I get back to the hotel, I start editing, and everything looks gross. People's skin tones look like they're sick. And as you let it play, the colors are changing. I'm like, why are these things changing? It was a nightmare to fix. It was actually so bad that I didn't even end up using that footage in the final video because it was that bad. Fluorescent lights suck, and the reason for that was auto white balance. You don't want it to be on auto white balance. Auto white balance is gonna make the colors change all the time, but the best way to dial it in is to use an app and a white card. They have like an unfoldable one of those things. on Amazon for like $6. So I'll leave a link to it below. But if you don't want to get one of those, you can also get like a white piece of paper, crumble it up, and then expand it and have the app and point it at that white balance of wherever your subject is going to be. This app is called Kelvin Meter. There are multiple of them, but this is just the one that I use. Once you grab the app and point it at that white piece of paper, you are going to change the white balance on your camera to that number that is showing up. You will get perfect white balance every single time. Now, quick question for you. What if I told you that I could just fit in your pocket? Hold up, man, that'd be kind of weird, low key. No, but what I'm saying is like, what if I could just like pop out and tell you like the exact gear that you needed to buy? Or what if I can give you even more resources so that you can learn more about this stuff and not have to drown in the sea of YouTube again? Or how about the exact gear and plan in order of how to buy certain things to get the best quality possible without breaking the bank? Think of it as Joseph's gear plan, something that I didn't share in this video. I got all of that in one link down below. Now I'll put it on my store for $5 if you want to buy me a coffee, and that's your way of saying thank you. Yo, I really appreciate it. But if not, no worries. You can go ahead and put this code that's going to show up in this area within the next 30 seconds and you'll get it for free. Now, when it comes to gear, it's all about money. This light came out to like $50. Now, to some people, you may say, yo, that's really expensive. But to others, you may say, nah, dude, that's cheap. I'll take 3 of those. Now, the whole I can't afford it topic is a little tricky. I was talking to my YouTube mentor, Justin, and he said this about being able to afford gear. You either can't afford the purchase or you can't justify purchasing the gear. Now, can't means that you genuinely can't afford it, like you don't have the money to do that. And that's okay, man, don't worry. Subscribe, we're gonna make that content look good, I promise you. But for those of you who can't justify the purchase, well, I don't think you have a money issue. I think you have a believing in yourself issue. Now, I'm not saying to dump your life savings like I did, especially if you have family and mouths to feed. But what I am saying is, man, you gotta believe in yourself, regardless of your worldview and what you believe. But God, whoever created you, placed these desires and this creativity in you. Dare I say, you were born for this. NF said, what is the point of a plane if you don't know how to fly it? What is the point of having a heart of a warrior if you don't have a sword to fight with? What is the point of being a creative genius if you got no paintbrush to paint with? All I am saying, go grab whatever creative weapon you got and go make something already.